Let me ask you something. Have you ever realized that true strength doesn't always shout? Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it stands still. Sometimes it stays silent. In a world that celebrates noise, applause, and the constant need for attention, what if I told you that real power often hides in stillness? You see, silence isn't weakness. It's not surrender. It's not hiding. It's the calm of someone who knows their worth. It's the composure of someone who no longer needs validation to stand tall. It's the quiet power of someone who has learned that not every battle needs their voice, and not every opinion deserves a reply. I used to think silence was weakness too. I thought that if I stayed quiet, people would misunderstand me, label me, walk all over me. I believed that I had to explain myself, defend myself, fight every whisper that dared question me. But here's what life taught me. Wisdom knows when to speak and when to stay silent. And it takes more strength to stay quiet than it does to scream. Because silence, true silence, isn't passive. It's intentional. It says, I choose peace over drama. It says, my mission is too important to be derailed by distractions. It's not running away from conflict. It's rising above it. Not every accusation needs an answer. Not every critic deserves your energy. Some arguments are traps, sent to steal your focus and delay your purpose. There's a kind of confidence that grows in silence. When you truly know who you are, you stop needing to be seen. You stop needing to prove anything. Your life becomes your message. Your peace becomes your presence. And your silence, it becomes your strength. Think of it this way. A lion doesn't need to roar to remind the jungle who it is. The tallest tree doesn't announce its height. It just stands, rooted, growing, reaching. That's how your purpose works. That's how your calling speaks. When Jesus stood before his accusers, did he argue? Did he plead? Number, he stood in silence. Because truth doesn't need volume, it needs conviction. That silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom, it was power, it was divine trust. So maybe you're in a season where you feel misunderstood. Maybe people are talking, judging, assuming, and the temptation is to fight back, to correct them, to shout your truth. But hear me, you don't need to attend every battle you're invited to. Some fights are meant for God alone. Your job is not to win the argument. Your job is to keep walking, keep building, keep trusting. God doesn't need your defense. He needs your faith. He needs your surrender. When you let go of the need to be understood, that's when you become unshakable. That's when peace fills the space where anxiety used to live. That's when your silence becomes the loudest sound in the room. Let others chase applause. Let them fight to be seen. You walk in purpose. Let your results speak. Let your fruit be your proof. The most powerful people don't shout. They show up. They stay consistent. They grow quietly. And when the time is right, their presence is undeniable. Remember, silence is not the absence of power. It is the posture of someone who knows the battle is already won. It's not retreat. It's strategic stillness. It's not fear. It's focused faith. So the next time you feel pressure to speak, to explain, to defend, pause. Ask yourself, is this battle mine to fight? And if the answer is no, then stay still. Stay grounded. Stay silent. Because sometimes saying nothing is the strongest thing you can do. Let your life make the statement. Let your peace be your platform. Let your silence carry the weight of everything you no longer need to say. And most of all, let God be the voice that speaks on your behalf. There's something deeply powerful about quiet persistence. like a seed beneath the soil, pushing through the dirt, unseen, uncelebrated, but unstoppable. That's the truth behind silence. What appears still on the outside may be fiercely growing within. And one day, the same people who dismissed you in your quiet season will be the ones in awe when the fruit of your labor begins to shine. Silence, then, isn't weakness. It's strength wrapped in wisdom. It's not about running from conflict, but about mastering your own spirit. True growth begins when your peace becomes untouchable, when no one else's bad mood, harsh comment, or unfair opinion can steal your joy. Can you imagine what your life would look like if outside voices never disturbed your inner focus? Because here's the truth. When the enemy realizes he can't destroy your purpose, he shifts strategies. He tries to distract. He'll toss confusion into your path, stir up offense, spark meaningless arguments, and bait you into battles that have nothing to do with your calling. But here's your advantage. You don't have to play. When you remain calm, silent, grounded in your mission, you win every time. Don't spend your energy explaining your calling to people who weren't there when God whispered it to you. Let them think what they want. Let them talk. You just keep showing up. Keep building. Keep walking in silence with determination. Because there will come a moment, yes, a divine moment, when your breakthrough will roar louder than any defense you could give. Your success will speak for itself. Your fruit will shout what your words never could. So stay steady, stay focused, stay silent, and then just watch. Because there's a kind of growth that only happens in the quiet. Away from crowds, away from spotlight, away from the pressure to perform. Our modern world tells us we must be seen to matter. We must be loud to be valid. But true transformation happens where no one is watching. Deep in the soil of your soul, in the hidden places where the applause doesn't reach. Some of the most powerful seasons in your life will be the loneliest. Not because you're unloved, but because you're being set apart. And that distinction, that separation, it's not rejection, it's refinement. God often isolates before he elevates. He sets you aside, not to punish, but to prepare. He shows you who you are without the noise, without the clapping, without the crowd. Stillness, discipline, surrender. Those are the tools of growth. And yes, sometimes that means walking alone. Think about the seed before it becomes a tree. It must go underground. It must break in the dark before it ever rises in the light. No one celebrates that stage. No one cheers for the buried seed. But that silent breaking, that invisible stretching, it's the foundation of something extraordinary. And you, right now, might feel like you're buried too. Like your efforts are unseen, like your prayers are hitting walls. But don't misinterpret the season. You're not being buried to be forgotten. You're being buried to be formed. God is strengthening your roots before revealing your bloom. This is divine development. People may misread your distance. They may mislabel your process. They may say you've changed. And you have. But not in the way they think. You're not cold. You're focused. You're not distant. You're being refined. You're not dismissive. You're protecting your process. Because when you're building something sacred within yourself, you can't afford to be everywhere. You can't please everyone. You can't chase every distraction. Destiny demands discipline. And in these silent seasons, when it feels like heaven is quiet and the road is still, know this: God is working. He's pruning your heart. healing the wounds you buried, building the kind of character that will carry the weight of your calling. You may not see it now, but one day, soon, you'll walk into rooms with a quiet confidence. You'll stop needing attention to feel valuable. You'll stop chasing love in empty places. That, right there, is the fruit of private growth. That is the power of silence. And hear this clearly. Not everyone is meant to walk this stretch of your journey with you. Some people were part of your history, not your destiny. The more you drag them where they don't belong, the longer it takes to get where you need to go. Let them go. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. You do not owe them an explanation. What you owe is obedience to God, to your purpose, to your becoming. Yes, growth is uncomfortable. It will stretch your soul, challenge your pride, confront your weaknesses. But do not resist it. Don't numb it. Lean into it. Because God didn't call you to be popular, He called you to be powerful. And real power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It just is. So embrace the silence. Embrace the season. Something beautiful is growing beneath the surface. And when it breaks through, when the light finally hits the fruit, every quiet step you took will be worth it. Hook opening. Have you ever wondered why silence sometimes feels like solitude, but ends up being the very ground where greatness is cultivated? What if I told you that stillness isn't a pause in your journey? It's the part where your power is forged. It moves with quiet confidence, speaks with unshakable wisdom, and walks in unwavering peace. So when life slows down, when the spotlight fades and all that remains is stillness, don't resist it. Don't rush out of that season. Instead, lean in. Embrace the hush. Sit with the silence. Because in those moments when it seems like nothing is happening, something sacred is unfolding. God is at work, not on the surface, but deep within. You're being shaped in ways you can't yet see, sharpened in areas you once thought were already strong, prepared not for popularity, but for purpose. So remain in the process. Stay in the silence. That's where real strength is born. And along this journey, one of the hardest lessons you'll ever learn is this. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you. Not everyone deserves access to your growth, your process, your purpose. That's not arrogance. It's discernment. It's wisdom. Because you cannot construct a life of peace if you keep giving space to chaos. Your calling is sacred. It requires sacred boundaries. If you keep handing the keys to people who only bring confusion, don't be surprised when your peace is stolen. The wrong voices in the right seasons can still lead you into wrong outcomes. You don't owe an explanation for your boundaries. You don't have to share your steps before you take them. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs in your life will happen in private, unseen by the world, but approved by heaven. Here's the truth. Not everyone who's close is called. Some people are familiar, but they are not a sign. And knowing the difference could save your destiny. In a world that screams, show it, prove it, post it, your next move should be whispered in prayer, not shouted on a platform. Protect what's sacred. Keep your next chapter between you and God. Growth will show itself in time. You don't need applause when you're walking in alignment. You don't need permission when you're driven by purpose. Let your life be the proof. Let your peace, your consistency, your results be your voice. Because when you trust the wrong voices, they'll plant seeds of fear, doubt, and distraction. That's why discernment is crucial. You don't have to be cold or bitter, just wise. There's a huge difference between having a good heart and giving it away carelessly. Some people were just passing through your life, but you made them permanent. It's time to clean house. Release what no longer supports your growth. Protect your heart, because the weight of your calling cannot be shared with just anyone. If someone doesn't carry the oil, they can't carry the weight. If they don't understand the cost, they'll never honor the blessing. So stop expecting support from people who were never built to hold you up. It's not that they're bad. They're just not built for your next level. And that's okay. Let them go in peace. You see, before God elevates, He often separates. Sometimes, the silence you feel isn't rejection. It's God clearing the room so He can speak to you without interference. In that quiet, you hear clearer. In that stillness, you grow deeper. In that solitude, you find your strength. You don't have to explain. You don't have to defend. You don't have to perform. Learn the power of moving in silence. Trust that what's meant for you doesn't need to be seen by others to be secured. It's okay to move differently. It's okay to grow out of old places, old friendships, and old conversations. That's what evolution looks like. It's not pride, it's progress. You've changed. You've matured. You now understand the value of your energy, your peace, your time. And because of that, you no longer invite just anyone into your sacred spaces. That isn't arrogance. That's stewardship. And stewardship is what separates those who wander from those who rise. Here's what they don't tell you about growth. It comes with separation, silence, and sacrifice. And yet, that's where the deepest transformation happens. When you begin to rise into your calling, the atmosphere around you shifts. Suddenly, the people who once called daily fall silent. The rooms that once welcomed you feel colder. The conversations that used to excite you now feel empty. That shift isn't random, it's required. Because that's knowing that the more God gives you, the more He expects you to protect it. So let them talk. Let them say you've changed. Let them whisper, "You're quiet now." Or wonder why you've become distant. They don't see the prayers that go unanswered in public, but are cried in secret. They don't know the weight of the assignment that wakes you in the middle of the night. They can't feel the burden you carry, because it wasn't meant for them to carry. You're not being rude. You're being responsible. You're not ignoring people. You're ignoring distractions. There comes a moment, and it's sacred, when you realize that protecting your peace is more vital than being understood by everyone. And sometimes, the most powerful statement you can make is silence. Just walk, just grow, just focus. Because here's the truth. People who are truly for you won't need constant access to validate your worth. They'll respect the silence, honor your growth, and meet you at the next level if they're meant to be there. You don't need the crowd to clap. You need the courage to continue. And when you begin to turn your focus inward, a revelation hits you like fresh morning light. Peace is not a destination to chase. It's something you create within. We live in a world constantly selling us the illusion that peace lies out there, in relationships, in success, in validation. We think if we achieve enough, have enough, love enough, we'll finally feel the quiet our souls crave. But peace isn't found in possessions or approval. It's found when you decide that external chaos will no longer define your internal world. That's when the shift begins. That's when clarity enters. You stop looking sideways at others and start leaning into yourself. You stop measuring your timeline by someone else's pace. And for the first time, you taste freedom. Freedom from the weight of comparison. Freedom from performing for approval. Freedom to be who you were always called to be, even if no one claps, even if no one watches. And oh, what a beautiful shift that is. You begin to realize something radical. You never needed their permission to be whole. You never needed their approval to rest. All you ever needed was alignment with the purpose God placed inside you. And that's more than enough. When your focus turns inward, you suddenly see how much energy you've wasted, how much time you've poured into fear-based decisions, chasing acceptance, watching others' lives as if yours weren't already a miracle in progress. But now you are consumed, not by comparison, but by calling. Because here's the truth. What they have, what they do, what they say, it doesn't define you. Your peace comes from knowing you are walking in your purpose. You're not imitating someone else's journey. You're owning yours. And that creates a strength the world can't shake. When peace is born from the inside out, life can throw storms, disappointments, betrayal, and heartbreak at you. And still, you'll stand. Because your peace isn't built on sand. It's anchored in truth. The winds may howl, the waters may rise, but you remain steady. Because your peace is not circumstantial. It's spiritual. It flows from knowing who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. That kind of peace. It speaks without a sound. It shines without a spotlight. And it changes everything. And soon, you begin to see it. The fruit of that peace. It shows up in your decisions, your relationships, your confidence. It's quiet, but undeniable. And the world will notice. Not because you shouted, but because you lived it. So let them say you're different. Let them say you're distant. What they call silence, you know as strength. What they see as solitude, you recognize as sacred. Because you're not chasing peace anymore. You're becoming it. When you stop searching for peace outside yourself, you start building it from within. And that shift changes everything. You see, the peace that begins on the inside has the power to transform everything around you. Your clarity sharpens, your confidence grows, joy becomes a natural part of your day, and you develop the strength to stand firm no matter what life throws at you. And here's the beautiful truth. When you cultivate peace within, the world around you cannot remain the same. Your relationships begin to reflect it. Your circumstances start to respond to it. Even the challenges that once rattled you now begin to lose their grip. Because peace isn't passive, it's powerful. It carries a quiet authority that changes the very atmosphere around you. Think about it. When you're at peace with yourself, you stop attracting chaos. You stop tolerating toxicity. You stop chasing the things that drain you or dilute your purpose. And instead, you start becoming a magnet for what is right. Right people, right places, right timing. It's not magic, it's alignment. When you make peace your priority, when your internal world becomes a safe, still place, it begins to shape your external world in miraculous ways. The energy you carry, the calm, the confidence, the wholeness, begins to influence your decisions, your habits, your boundaries. So why do we still chase after approval and validation? Why do we still look to others to tell us who we are and how we should feel? Because we've been conditioned to believe that peace is found in possessions, in popularity, in performance. We've been trained to think our worth depends on what we do, who we know, or how much we achieve. But peace was never meant to be earned through hustle. It was always meant to be claimed through stillness. And when you finally realize that, you begin to take back your power. You stop waiting for someone to affirm your worth. You stop depending on the highs and lows of life to decide how you feel. You take control. You say, "My peace will not be dictated by what's happening around me. My peace comes from who I am becoming." Yes, the world will keep pulling at you. It will scream for your attention. It will tempt you to doubt, to compare, to question your path. But in those moments, you have a choice. Will you get swept away by the noise? Or will you anchor yourself in peace? Let me remind you, peace is your right. But even more than that, it's your responsibility. No one can steal your peace unless you hand it over. So hold it tight. Guard it like treasure. Let your peace be the proof of your faith, the evidence of your strength, and the fuel for your purpose. And when you do that, everything around you will start to respond. You'll stop needing applause. You'll stop chasing after what doesn't serve you. You'll become rooted, grounded, unshakable. There's something deeply powerful about choosing to be still in a world that's constantly racing. Everyone else is sprinting, hustling for validation, for likes, for recognition. But you're learning to sit, to wait, to breathe, to trust. And in that quiet space, you're being built into something stronger than applause could ever give you. Because sometimes progress doesn't look like motion. Sometimes it looks like maturity. It looks like patience. It looks like trusting God even when you don't understand the timing. And in those sacred still moments, when no one sees, when no one claps, God is doing his deepest work in you. The world will shout, "Do more, be more, push harder." But God whispers, "Be still and know that I am God." That whisper is where your strength is found. In that stillness is where clarity comes rushing in. In the silence, you receive divine direction that no noise can provide. Sometimes, the most powerful move you can make is to stay still, to stop talking, to stop explaining, and just be. Because the battle isn't always won in the noise. Sometimes it's won in the stillness, in the surrender, in the sacred pause where you stop managing and start trusting. And when you give God space, real space, he begins to reveal what you've been missing all along. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of God moving in your life. It's the space where transformation happens. And that kind of transformation can't be rushed. So let go of the need to control. Let go of the urge to be seen. Embrace the quiet. Because in the quiet, God is speaking. And what he's saying will change everything. Sometimes the quietest moments in life are the ones that carry the most power. You may not hear applause, you may not see movement, but deep within, something sacred is unfolding. In that stillness, where the world fades into the background and your own voice softens, you give God space to move freely, to shape, to build, to transform. You see, silence isn't a void. It's not emptiness or absence. It's the sacred space where God begins to speak louder than the noise ever could. When you finally stop trying to micromanage every outcome, when you loosen your grip on every plan, when you release your need to know what's next, that's when God steps in and does what only he can do. It's in those hushed, unseen moments that your greatest growth takes root. The world has conditioned us to believe that noise is progress, that busyness equals productivity. But what if the real breakthrough happens in the pause? What if, in the absence of noise, God is doing his most profound work. You may feel like you're standing still, but God is setting the foundation. You may feel forgotten, but heaven is watching closely. While others are moving in the spotlight, you are being equipped in the shadows. And here's the truth. Growth that happens in silence is often the most sustainable. It's not driven by validation, nor is it fueled by praise. It's rooted in a deeper knowing, a steadier strength. In the quiet, your character is refined. In the quiet, your patience expands. In the quiet, your dependence on God deepens. So while the world rushes, you remain still. Not because you're falling behind, but because you're rising within. Do you know what happens when you stay long enough in the silence? Clarity comes. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that whispers. It whispers truth about who you are, what you carry, and where you're going. You begin to hear God's voice with more precision. You discern his direction without the filter of outside expectations. And in that stillness, you finally hear your own heart, what truly matters, what really ignites your soul. In silence, you realize that peace is not passive. It's powerful. It's the fruit of surrender, not control. You stop needing every situation to work out your way. You stop placing your joy in outcomes. Instead, you learn to trust that even when nothing is happening on the outside, something sacred is happening within. The seed is still growing underground. You also begin to understand that silence is a teacher. It teaches patience when the answer hasn't come yet. It teaches humility when you're tempted to prove yourself. It teaches resilience when you feel overlooked. But most importantly, it teaches faith. A faith that doesn't need visible results to believe that God is moving. When you choose to stay in the silence, you reject the noise of comparison. You stop scrolling through someone else's highlight reel and start writing your own story. You stop envying someone else's pace and begin embracing your own rhythm. There's a beauty in knowing that your timeline is uniquely yours, and God's timing is always perfect. So many of us rush to post, to prove, to publicize our every step. But silence whispers, let the fruit speak for you. You don't need to announce every move. You don't need to explain every delay. Your journey is not for public validation. It's for personal transformation. And that transformation often happens in secret. Yes, it can feel lonely. Yes, it can feel like you're missing out. But remember, isolation is often preparation. Separation is often elevation. When God sets you apart, it's not to punish you, it's to position you. And in those sacred moments of solitude, He is depositing things in you that will carry you further than any crowd ever could. So stop rushing the process. Stop measuring your pace against someone else's progress. Stop assuming that silence equals stagnation. The absence of noise does not mean the absence of movement. In fact, it often means that God is doing His deepest, most lasting work. Stay rooted, stay focused, stay faithful. Because one day, when the time is right, you will look back on this season of stillness and see it for what it truly was. The birthplace of your strength, the incubator of your calling, the forge where your faith became unshakable. And in that moment, you will realize it was worth every second of silence. So keep going, stay quiet, trust the process. God is not done with you yet.